Welcome, dear listener. Tonight we'll drift together into the hidden wonders of what Three-Eye Atlas wants with Mars. As your breath slows, imagine the night sky above you opening its quiet secrets. You don't need to follow every word. Simply let the story carry you into rest. Before we begin this gentle journey, if you find peace in these cosmic wanderings, like and subscribe to my YouTube channel and comment below which country are you listening from and at what time. Now let your shoulders drop, let your breathing deepen, and allow yourself to float with me into the rust-colored mysteries of our neighboring world. Feel yourself sinking into comfort, your body becoming as light as stardust, ready to drift through space and time toward the red planet that has captured humanity's imagination for generations. Tonight, you are an astronaut of dreams, floating weightlessly through the cosmos while your physical form rests peacefully in your bed. The universe spreads out before you like a vast ocean of velvet darkness, sprinkled with the diamond dust of distant stars. Mars glows in the distance, a crimson beacon calling to something deep within the human soul, something that has always yearned to explore beyond the boundaries of the known world. Picture yourself floating gently above Earth on a warm summer evening, the planet's blue marble surface spinning slowly beneath you. Your perspective is that of a peaceful observer, suspended in the gentle embrace of zero gravity, watching the familiar continents drift by in their eternal dance. The Pacific Ocean stretches like a vast mirror, reflecting the light of countless stars, while wisps of white clouds spiral across the surface in patterns that seem almost choreographed by some cosmic intelligence. This is your home, beautiful and serene, but tonight your attention is drawn beyond its atmospheric embrace towards something that beckons from across the void. In the distance, like a crimson lighthouse in the cosmic sea, Mars glows with its distinctive rusty hue. This ancient world has been calling to us across the void for millennia, its silent presence a constant companion in our night sky. Even the earliest human civilizations noticed this wandering star, this red point of light that moved against the fixed backdrop of constellations. They named it after gods of war and conflict, not understanding that what they perceived as aggression was actually invitation, a gentle calling from a world that once knew water, that once breathed with a thicker atmosphere, that once might have harbored life in forms we can barely imagine. As you drift closer to this distant realm, imagine the soft whisper of solar winds carrying stories between worlds. These invisible currents flow from our sun like cosmic breath, carrying charged particles and electromagnetic fields that connect every planet in our solar system in an intricate web of influence. Mars sits within this flow like a ship anchored in a celestial river, receiving the sun's energy and radiating its own subtle emanations back into space. The solar wind has been both friend and enemy to Mars over the eons, warming its surface, but also slowly stripping away its precious atmosphere, leaving it thinner and colder than it once was. Mars appears larger now as your dreaming consciousness draws nearer, its surface revealing the gentle scars of ancient rivers and the smooth curves of impact craters worn soft by eons of dust storms. This is a world that once knew water, that once held secrets we're only beginning to understand. The great canyon systems that snake across its surface dwarf anything we know on Earth, speaking of a time when massive floods carved these channels through rock and soil. The polar ice caps gleam white against the rust-colored terrain, holding within their frozen layers the history of Martian climate change, a record written in ice that tells of warmer times when the planet breathed more deeply and dreamed of blue skies. The Three-Eye Atlas initiative emerges from this cosmic longing, this deep human need to reach beyond our blue world toward the red horizon. Like explorers standing at the edge of an unknown ocean, scientists and visionaries gaze toward Mars with a mixture of wonder and determination. The name itself speaks to the magnitude of their ambition, 3I representing the three pillars of investigation, innovation, and implementation, while Atlas evokes the mythological figure who carried the weight of the heavens on his shoulders. This organization has taken upon itself the tremendous responsibility of bridging the gap between worlds, of making the impossible journey from Earth to Mars not just achievable, but sustainable. Let your breath match the rhythm of this ancient celestial dance, Earth and Mars slowly spinning their eternal waltz through space. Every 26 months, the planets align in opposition, when Mars appears brightest in Earth's sky, and the distance between worlds shrinks to its minimum. It is during these windows that 3I Atlas times their most ambitious missions, understanding that space travel requires patience and precision, that the cosmos operates on schedules far grander than human urgency. Feel the gentle pull of curiosity, the same force that once drew our ancestors to cross oceans and climb mountains. This is the force that drives 3I Atlas, the irresistible magnetism of the unknown, the sweet ache of questions that can only be answered by going there and seeing for ourselves. Mars beckons with its quiet mysteries, and 3I Atlas represents our species' response to that call. As you sink deeper into relaxation, imagine yourself as part of this grand cosmic story, your own breath synchronized with the patient rhythms of planetary motion. The red planet rotates once every 24 hours and 37 minutes, just slightly slower than Earth's spin, creating days that feel almost familiar, yet subtly alien. The seasons last nearly twice as long as ours, giving Mars a more contemplative character, a world that takes its time with change, that thinks in longer cycles than our hurried human schedules. This is the pace at which 3I Atlas learns to work, matching their ambitions to the deeper rhythms of the solar system itself. In the soft glow of laboratory lights scattered across the globe, teams of dedicated researchers work like gentle gardeners, nurturing seeds of innovation that will one day bloom on Martian soil. These are not the harsh fluorescent environments of stereotypical science fiction, but warm, human spaces where brilliant minds gather to solve the greatest puzzle our species has ever attempted. The laboratories hum with quiet activity, the soft clicking of keyboards mixing with the low whisper of air filtration systems and the occasional murmur of colleagues discussing complex calculations. Here, in these sanctuaries of human ingenuity, the future is being carefully crafted one breakthrough at a time. 3I Atlas, the International Initiative for Interplanetary Advancement and Terraforming Logistics Allocation Systems, moves with the patient persistence of nature itself, each development as organic as the growth of a tree. The organization operates more like a living ecosystem than a traditional bureaucracy, with information and resources flowing naturally between different research centers, each contributing its unique expertise to the greater whole. Biologists work alongside atmospheric scientists, while engineers collaborate with psychologists to understand not just how to get humans to Mars, but how to help them thrive once they arrive. The initiative recognizes that terraforming a planet requires not just technological prowess, but deep understanding of complex systems and the patience to work with natural processes rather than against them. Picture these technologies as living things, artificial intelligence systems that breathe with electronic pulses, learning and growing like digital organisms preparing for their journey across the solar system. The quantum computers that power 3I Atlas research operate at temperatures colder than deep space, their processing cores existing in a state between classical and quantum reality, capable of modeling atmospheric systems so complex that traditional computers would require centuries to perform the same calculations. These machines dream in mathematics, processing millions of variables simultaneously to predict how different interventions might affect Mars' climate over decades and centuries. They are not just tools, but partners in the great work of planetary transformation, their artificial intelligence growing more sophisticated with each problem they solve. The 3I represents three pillars of human ambition that form the foundation of everything the initiative attempts. Investigation encompasses the vast array of research projects studying Mars from every possible angle, orbital reconnaissance missions that map the planet's surface in extraordinary detail, atmospheric analysis programs that track every subtle change in the thin Martian air, and geological surveys that probe deep beneath the surface to understand the planet's internal structure and hidden water reserves. This investigation phase is like getting to know a new friend, learning their moods and preferences, their strengths and vulnerabilities, before attempting any major changes to their situation. Innovation represents the creative heart of 3I Atlas, the laboratories and research centers where impossible dreams are slowly transformed into practical technologies. Here, scientists develop atmospheric processes that can function in the harsh Martian environment, surviving temperature swings that would destroy conventional machinery and operating with minimal maintenance for decades at a time. They design magnetic field generators that could potentially restore Mars' protective magnetosphere, shielding the planet's growing atmosphere from the solar wind that has been stripping it away for billions of years. Every innovation is tested rigorously, not just for functionality but for sustainability, ensuring that each technology can operate independently for extended periods with minimal human intervention. Implementation is perhaps the most challenging pillar, requiring the coordination of resources and efforts on a scale never before attempted in human history. This involves not just the physical deployment of technologies to Mars, but the careful orchestration of supply chains, communication networks, and human resources that span two planets. Implementation teams work like master choreographers, planning missions years in advance, coordinating the movements of spacecraft, robotic systems, and eventually human crews with the precision of a ballet and the patience of geological time. Atlas carries the weight of our dreams like the mythological Titan carrying the heavens, shouldering the enormous responsibility of turning humanity into a truly interplanetary species. The name evokes not just strength but endurance, the ability to carry a burden not for days or years, but for generations, understanding that the transformation of Mars will be the work of centuries, requiring sustained effort across multiple human lifetimes. Like the mythological Atlas, the organization must possess not just the power to lift tremendous weights, but the wisdom to understand where those weights need to be positioned for maximum effect. Imagine robotic systems as gentle as morning dew, designed to kiss the Martian surface with the tenderness of the first spring rain. These machines represent a new philosophy of space exploration, moving away from the aggressive, conquering mentality of early space missions towards something more collaborative and respectful. The rovers and landers developed by 3I Atlas are designed to work with Mars rather than simply studying it from a distance. They move across the landscape like cautious animals, taking time to understand their environment before making any changes, testing soil composition and atmospheric conditions with the patient thoroughness of dedicated scientists. These machines will study the planet's whispered secrets, analyzing soil compositions with the delicate touch of a lover's caress, measuring atmospheric conditions with the precision of a master musician tuning their instrument. Each robotic mission builds upon the knowledge gained by its predecessors, creating an ever-expanding database of Martian knowledge that informs every decision made by 3I Atlas planners. The machines operate in networks, sharing information instantaneously and backing up each other's observations, ensuring that no critical data is lost, even if individual units fail. They work through the long Martian nights when temperatures drop far below anything experienced on Earth. Their systems designed to endure not just for the duration of their primary missions, but for decades beyond, becoming permanent residents of the world they help to transform. The vision flows like honey through the collective consciousness of our species, a shared dream of making Mars not just visitable, but livable. This dream has captured imaginations across every continent on Earth, inspiring children to study science and engineering, motivating artists to imagine what Martian cities might look like, and driving investors to fund research that might not pay dividends for decades. The vision is both practical and poetic, grounded in rigorous science, yet elevated by the most fundamental human desire to explore, to grow, to become more than we currently are. As your body relaxes deeper into rest, feel yourself becoming part of this technological symphony, your heartbeat joining the gentle hum of servers and satellite communications that connect our world to the possibilities waiting on Mars. The data flows continuously, streaming from Mars orbiters and surface missions back to Earth through the Deep Space Network, a constant conversation between worlds that operates even while you sleep. Your own rest is part of this grand symphony of human achievement, your dreams contributing to the collective unconscious that drives our species toward the stars. Let the warm glow of innovation wrap around you like a favorite blanket, knowing that somewhere in quiet labs and research facilities, brilliant minds are working through the night to turn science fiction into gentle reality. These researchers work with the same dedication that monks once brought to copying sacred texts, understanding that their work is not just technically challenging, but spiritually significant, representing humanity's first serious attempt to become a species that lives on multiple worlds. Their calculations and experiments, their successes and failures, all contribute to the growing body of knowledge that will one day allow humans to walk freely under Martian skies, breathing air that has been carefully restored to something approaching Earth normal composition. Mars has been dancing with Earth for billions of years, their gravitational embrace creating subtle tides in space-time itself that influence everything from the shape of their orbits to the very evolution of life on both worlds. This cosmic ballet began when the solar system was young, when the planets were still settling into their current positions and the dance was more violent, marked by collisions and catastrophic orbital changes. But over the eons, the dance has become more refined, more predictable, governed by the elegant mathematics of celestial mechanics that allows us to predict where each planet will be thousands of years in the future. As you drift deeper into this cosmic reverie, imagine how these two worlds have influenced each other across the vast emptiness, sharing meteorites like love letters written in stone and metal. Some of the rocks we find on Earth actually originated on Mars, blasted into space by ancient impacts and traveling the cold void for millions of years before falling as meteorites onto our world. These Martian visitors carry within their crystalline structure the chemical signatures of their home world, allowing scientists to study Mars even before we sent our first spacecraft there. Similarly, Earth rocks have made the journey to Mars, carrying traces of our world's geology and perhaps even microscopic life forms that might still survive in the Martian environment. The Red Planet story is written in its geography, a narrative that 3I Atlas scientists read with the careful attention of literary scholars interpreting an ancient text. Vast canyons that dwarf our Grand Canyon speak of a time when water flowed in tremendous quantities across the Martian surface, carving channels through solid rock with the patient persistence of geological time. Valles Marineris, the great canyon system that stretches across Mars like a vast scar, is over 4,000 kilometers long, 700 kilometers wide in places, and up to 7 kilometers deep. To walk along its rim would be like standing at the edge of multiple Grand Canyons placed end to end, a landscape so vast that it challenges human comprehension. Polar ice caps expand and contract with Martian seasons, breathing like the lungs of a sleeping giant as carbon dioxide freezes out of the atmosphere during winter and sublimes back into gas during the warmer months. These ice caps are not just water, but also frozen carbon dioxide, creating a dynamic system that actually changes the planet's atmospheric pressure as the seasons progress. During southern winter, so much carbon dioxide freezes onto the southern polar cap that the planet's atmospheric pressure drops by 25%. This seasonal breathing affects weather patterns across the entire planet, creating dust storms that can engulf the entire world and last for months. Ancient riverbeds that once carried liquid water under alien skies now lie dry and dusty, but their meandering patterns, still clearly visible from orbit, speak of a time when Mars was warmer, wetter, perhaps more Earth-like than it is today. These paleochannels, as scientists call them, show clear evidence of sustained water flow over long periods, suggesting that ancient Mars had a stable hydrological cycle with rivers, lakes, and possibly even oceans. Some of these ancient waterways are larger than any river on Earth today, hinting at climatic conditions that could have supported not just liquid water, but potentially life itself. 3i Atlas seeks to read this story, to understand Mars not as a dead world, but as a sleeping one, waiting for the gentle touch of technological awakening. The organization approaches the red planet like archaeologists approaching an ancient city, recognizing that understanding the past is crucial to shaping the future. Their scientists study the planet's geological history not just for academic interest, but to understand what went wrong, what caused Mars to lose its thick atmosphere and liquid water, and how those processes might be reversed or compensated for through careful intervention. Consider how the planet's day is just slightly longer than ours, 24 hours and 37 minutes of Martian time, flowing like a slower, deeper breath. This small difference has profound implications for anyone who might one day live on Mars, creating days that feel almost familiar, yet subtly alien. The additional 37 minutes might seem trivial, but over weeks and months, it creates a kind of temporal jet lag, a slow drift between Earth time and Mars time that Mars colonists will have to adapt to. 3i Atlas researchers study how this time difference might affect human circadian rhythms, sleep patterns, and overall psychological well-being. Your own breathing can match this rhythm now, slightly extended, slightly more spacious than Earth time. As you relax deeper into sleep, let your breath become a bridge between worlds, connecting you to the patient rhythms of the red planet. The seasons on Mars last nearly twice as long as ours, giving the red world a more patient, contemplative character. A Martian year stretches for 687 Earth days, nearly 2 of our years, meaning that anyone born on Mars would experience seasons that last for months, rather than the brief 3-month cycles we know on Earth. This creates a different relationship with time itself, a more geological perspective where change happens slowly but inevitably. The initiative recognizes that Mars is not empty space waiting to be filled, but a world with its own character, its own ancient dignity that must be respected and honored. Like respectful visitors entering a sacred space, Atlas approaches with reverence, seeking to understand before seeking to change, to listen before speaking. This philosophy represents a fundamental shift in how humanity approaches space exploration, moving away from the conquering mentality of early space missions toward something more collaborative and sustainable. The planet's 2 small moons, Phobos and Deimos, add another layer of complexity to the Martian environment. These irregularly shaped satellites, probably captured asteroids, race across Martian skies in orbit so fast that Phobos actually rises in the west and sets in the east, visible for only a few hours before disappearing beyond the horizon. These moons create a night sky utterly alien to Earth-born humans, and 3i Atlas planners must consider how this constant celestial motion might affect the psychology and daily rhythms of future Mars colonists. The magnetic field, or rather the lack of one, represents perhaps the greatest challenge to making Mars habitable. Unlike Earth, which is protected by a strong magnetic field generated by its molten iron core, Mars has only weak, localized magnetic fields scattered across its surface. This leaves the planet vulnerable to solar radiation and solar wind, which has been slowly stripping away its atmosphere for billions of years. 3I Atlas researchers are developing technologies that could potentially restore Mars's magnetic protection, creating artificial magnetospheres that would shield the planet like invisible umbrellas, allowing its atmosphere to thicken naturally over time. As you sink into the gentle embrace of sleep, imagine yourself floating in the space between worlds, feeling the slow pulse of planetary heart, the patient circulation of atmospheres, the quiet conversation that worlds have been having since the birth of the solar system. This conversation is conducted not in words but in gravitational influences, in the subtle exchange of particles and energy, in the complex dance of orbital mechanics that keeps both worlds stable in their cosmic ballet. Mars speaks to Earth in the language of reflected sunlight, in the faint radio signals from robotic explorers, in the meteorites that occasionally bridge the gap between worlds carrying messages written in stone and metal. The dust that covers much of Mars tells its own story, fine particles that have been ground down by billions of years of temperature cycling, creating a regolith that covers the planet like a soft blanket. This dust creates the spectacular sunsets that would greet any human visitor to Mars, as the fine particles scatter light in ways that paint the Martian sky in shades of blue and green, the opposite of Earth's red sunsets. 3I Atlas researchers study this dust not just as an obstacle to overcome but as a resource to utilize, understanding that the transformation of Mars will require working with the planet's existing materials rather than importing everything from Earth. There is something profoundly beautiful in the way 3I Atlas approaches Mars, not as conquerors seeking to impose their will upon an alien landscape, but as gardeners preparing soil for future generations of life to flourish. This philosophy represents a fundamental evolution in human thinking about space exploration, moving away from the aggressive, militaristic approaches that characterized early space programs towards something more nurturing, more collaborative, more sustainable. The initiative's researchers approach their work with the same reverence that master gardeners bring to cultivating ancient botanical gardens, understanding that true transformation requires patience, wisdom, and deep respect for existing natural systems. The first mystery lies in their patient methodology, the way they study not just the planet's present state, but its deep past and potential futures. Like archaeologists of possibility, they dig through layers of what was, what is, and what could be. Every mission to Mars builds upon the knowledge gained by previous expeditions, creating an ever-expanding database of information that spans geology, atmospheric science, chemistry, biology, and dozens of other disciplines. The researchers understand that Mars is not a simple problem to be solved, but a complex system to be understood, with countless variables and feedback loops that must be carefully mapped before any major interventions can be attempted. 3I Atlas scientists use advanced computer modeling to create virtual versions of Mars that exist in quantum superposition, allowing them to test thousands of different terraforming scenarios simultaneously. These digital Mars worlds exist in parallel processing cores, each one running through centuries of simulated time in mere hours of Earth time, showing how different approaches might affect the planet's climate, geology, and potential for supporting life. The models reveal subtle interactions between systems that might not be apparent for decades in the real world, allowing researchers to refine their approaches before committing resources to physical interventions. The initiative's interest in Mars goes beyond simple colonization, extending into realms that touch on the very meaning of what it means to be human in the cosmos. They seek to understand the planet's capacity for regeneration, its hidden reserves of water, in polar caps and underground aquifers, its potential for supporting not just human life, but an entire ecosystem that could exist in harmony with both Earth and Martian environmental conditions. This vision encompasses not just the survival of humans on Mars, but their evolution into something new, a branch of humanity adapted to life under alien skies, yet still connected to their Earth-born cousins through technology, culture, and shared genetic heritage. Water represents the key to this transformation, and 3i Atlas has identified vast reserves of frozen water scattered across the planet's surface and buried deep in its subsurface layers. The polar ice caps contain enough water to fill a global ocean several meters deep, while subsurface ice deposits exist at surprisingly shallow depths across much of the planet's surface. The challenge lies not in finding water, but in accessing it efficiently and using it wisely to support both human needs and the broader goal of atmospheric thickening. The initiative's engineers are developing extraction systems that work like gentle acupuncture needles, tapping into these water reserves without disrupting the delicate balance of subsurface ice that helps stabilize the Martian regolith. Imagine vast atmospheric processes working like the planet's own breathing, slowly thickening the thin Martian air, adding oxygen molecule by molecule with the patience of geological time. These machines represent a masterpiece of engineering and biological understanding, combining advanced technology with principles learned from studying how Earth's own atmosphere evolved over billions of years. The processes don't simply pump out oxygen, but work to recreate the complex chemical cycles that maintain atmospheric stability, processing carbon dioxide from the Martian atmosphere while carefully managing trace gases that affect everything from temperature regulation to protection against harmful radiation. The atmospheric processes operate in networks, each installation communicating with others across the planet to coordinate their activities and maintain optimal atmospheric conditions across different regions. During Martian dust storms, which can engulf the entire planet for months, the processes shift into protective mode, sealing their intake systems and running on stored energy until the storms pass. When the skies clear, they resume their patient work of breathing life back into the thin Martian atmosphere, adding not just oxygen but water vapor, nitrogen, and other gases essential for creating an atmosphere that could eventually support complex life. These machines don't fight against Mars but work with it, amplifying natural processes that once made the planet more Earth-like billions of years ago. The processes are designed to function for centuries with minimal maintenance. They're self-repairing systems capable of manufacturing replacement parts from raw Martian materials. As the atmosphere slowly thickens, the machines adapt their output accordingly, always working toward the goal of creating stable atmospheric conditions rather than simply maximizing atmospheric pressure or oxygen content. Temperature regulation represents another crucial aspect of the terraforming process, and 3i Atlas engineers are developing systems that work with Mars' existing thermal dynamics rather than trying to overwhelm them with brute force heating. The planet's thin atmosphere and lack of magnetic field make it a challenging environment for maintaining stable temperatures, but the researchers have identified several natural processes that could be enhanced to create more Earth-like conditions. These include managing the planet's albedo by carefully controlling dust levels in the atmosphere, using orbital mirrors to focus additional sunlight on key regions, and releasing greenhouse gases that could help trap heat more effectively. The magnetic field generators they envision work like gentle shields, protecting the growing atmosphere from solar winds that have been stripping away Mars' air for eons. These systems represent some of the most advanced technology being developed by 3i Atlas, requiring precise control of electromagnetic fields on a planetary scale. The generators don't attempt to recreate Earth's magnetic field exactly, but instead create a network of smaller, overlapping protective zones that work together to deflect harmful solar radiation and prevent atmospheric loss. Picture these as invisible umbrellas held lovingly over a recovering world, allowing it to slowly remember what it once was while growing into something new and uniquely Martian. The magnetic field generators operate using superconducting coils that create stable magnetic fields without requiring constant energy input, drawing power from solar collectors, geothermal taps, and eventually from the planet's own atmospheric movements, as they become strong enough to generate wind power. The system is designed to grow stronger over time as Mars' atmosphere thickens, creating a positive feedback loop that accelerates the terraforming process. The psychological aspects of terraforming represent an often overlooked dimension of the 3I Atlas mission, but one that the initiative takes seriously. Living on Mars will require fundamental changes in how humans relate to their environment, their technology, and each other. The researchers study not just the technical challenges of keeping humans alive on Mars, but the deeper questions of how to help them thrive, how to maintain psychological health in an environment that will always be somewhat alien, and how to create communities that can sustain themselves across multiple generations without losing their connection to human values and culture. As your body settles deeper into rest, feel yourself becoming part of this grand rehabilitation, your own life force contributing to the dream of two living worlds sharing the same solar system. The transformation of Mars is not just a technological challenge, but a spiritual one, requiring humanity to expand its definition of home, to think in terms of centuries rather than years, and to consider the welfare of future generations who will inherit the worlds we create. Your rest tonight is part of this process, your dreams contributing to the collective vision that drives researchers and engineers to work toward goals they may never live to see completed. The initiative understands that terraforming Mars will change humanity as much as it changes Mars, creating new forms of human culture adapted to life on multiple worlds. The children born on Mars will carry both worlds in their consciousness, thinking in terms that span planets and seeing the universe as their natural home rather than an alien frontier to be conquered. They will dream dreams that no Earth-born human has ever dreamed, yet they will still carry within their genetic code the evolutionary history that connects them to every living thing that has ever existed on Earth. Your heartbeat now synchronizes with something larger and more profound than individual biology, connecting you to the pulse of interplanetary ambition that drives 3I Atlas forward through each careful day of research and development. This rhythm extends far beyond human timescales, encompassing the slow circulation of planetary atmospheres, the patient cycles of ice formation and sublimation, and the vast orbital dances that bring worlds into alignment every 26 months when launch windows open between Earth and Mars. Like the tides that respond to lunar gravity with predictable precision, human innovation responds to Mars' distant call, drawing us steadily toward that rusty horizon with an attraction that operates at both conscious and unconscious levels. The breathing of atmospheres becomes your breathing, creating a connection that spans the 140 million miles that separate our worlds at their closest approach. Earth's rich, oxygen-heavy air flows in and out of your lungs with each peaceful breath, carrying with it the products of billions of years of photosynthesis, the accumulated exhalations of countless plants and microorganisms that have slowly transformed our world's atmosphere from the thin, hostile environment it once was into the life-supporting envelope we know today. Meanwhile, across space, Mars' thin carbon dioxide atmosphere whispers its own quiet rhythm, a much more subtle breathing that speaks of a world waiting to remember how to support life once again. 3I Atlas works to bring these rhythms closer together, to help Mars remember how to breathe more deeply, more richly, with the kind of atmospheric complexity that can support not just human visitors, but entire ecosystems. The researchers understand that this transformation cannot be rushed, that atmospheric evolution operates on timescales measured in centuries and millennia rather than years or decades. Each atmospheric processor they deploy is designed to operate for hundreds of years, slowly and steadily adding complexity to Mars's simple atmospheric chemistry, introducing the trace gases and chemical cycles that make stable, life-supporting atmospheres possible. The carbon cycle, disrupted billions of years ago when Mars lost most of its atmosphere, represents one of the most crucial systems that 3i Atlas seeks to restore. On Earth, this cycle involves the constant exchange of carbon between atmosphere, oceans, soil, and living organisms, creating a dynamic equilibrium that helps regulate planetary temperature and supports the complex chemistry of life. On Mars, this cycle was broken when the planet's atmosphere became too thin to support liquid water on its surface, but traces of the old system remain in the planet's geology, waiting to be reactivated by careful intervention. The initiative's atmospheric processes work like mechanical trees, breathing in carbon dioxide and breathing out the oxygen that will one day support human lungs on Martian mountain peaks. But unlike simple oxygen generators, these machines are designed to recreate the full complexity of atmospheric chemistry, managing not just oxygen and carbon dioxide, but dozens of trace gases that affect everything from temperature regulation to protection against cosmic radiation. They release carefully controlled amounts of methane, nitrogen, water vapor, and other compounds, creating atmospheric conditions that can support increasingly complex chemical and eventually biological processes. Feel the rotation of worlds beneath you, Earth's 24-hour spin, and Mars' slightly longer day, creating a complex rhythm like a jazz composition played by celestial musicians. This temporal relationship between worlds creates fascinating synchronizations and desynchronizations that affect everything from communication schedules to the psychological rhythms of future Mars colonists. Every few weeks, the time difference between worlds accumulates enough to shift the relationship between Earth and Mars time zones, creating communication windows that drift slowly across the daily cycle like tides moving up and down a beach. The initiative's timeline moves to this cosmic beat, each phase of development timed to the patient turning of planets and the slow progression of seasons on both worlds. Mission planning operates on multiple temporal scales simultaneously, from the split-second precision required for spacecraft navigation to the century-spanning vision of complete atmospheric transformation. Launch windows between Earth and Mars occur roughly every 26 months when the planets align favorably, creating natural deadlines that force project planners to think in terms of multi-year development cycles rather than the quarterly or annual timescales that govern most human endeavors. The solar cycles that drive weather on both planets become the metronome for human ambition, creating natural rhythms that 3i Atlas learns to work with rather than against. Our Sun operates on an 11-year cycle of magnetic activity that affects space weather, solar radiation levels, and atmospheric conditions on both Earth and Mars. During periods of high solar activity, increased radiation poses greater dangers to spacecraft and surface operations, while periods of solar minimum create different challenges related to reduced power generation from solar panels and changes in atmospheric heating patterns. When dust storms rage across Mars, 3i Atlas waits with the wisdom of farmers who understand that some seasons are for planting, others for patience. These planet-wide storms can last for months, reducing visibility to near zero and coating everything with fine dust that can damage equipment and block solar panels. But the researchers have learned to see these storms not just as obstacles, but as part of Mars' natural cycles, redistribution events that help maintain atmospheric circulation and surface chemistry across the entire planet. During storm seasons, robotic systems hunker down in protective mode, sealing sensitive equipment and running on stored power while waiting for clearer skies. The orbital satellites continue their observations, studying the storms themselves to better understand atmospheric dynamics and improve weather prediction models for future human missions. When the storms clear and the thin atmosphere settles, their robots and monitoring stations resume their gentle work with renewed data about how Martian systems respond to these massive perturbations. The seasonal cycles of Mars, nearly twice as long as Earth's, create a different relationship with time that affects every aspect of mission planning. Spring on Mars lasts for several Earth months, followed by summers that stretch for half an Earth year. These extended seasons create opportunities for sustained operations that would be impossible in Earth's more rapidly changing climate, but they also require equipment and human psychology adapted to much longer periods of consistent conditions. Let your consciousness expand to encompass this vast rhythm, feeling how your individual dreams of exploration connect to the collective dream of our species, how your rest tonight contributes to humanity's greatest adventure. The transformation of Mars represents not just a technological achievement, but an evolutionary step for humanity, the beginning of our transition from a single planet species to citizens of the solar system. Every person who dreams of walking on Mars, who studies the science that makes it possible, who supports the research that turns dreams into reality, becomes part of the collective effort that drives this transformation forward. The gravitational relationship between Earth and Mars creates subtle influences that extend far beyond simple orbital mechanics. The two planets actually exchange angular momentum over very long timescales, with their gravitational interaction gradually affecting each other's rotation rates and orbital characteristics. These influences operate over millions of years, but 3I Atlas researchers study them carefully to understand how the presence of significant human infrastructure on Mars might affect these long-term, dynamical relationships. Communication between worlds requires patience and careful timing, as radio signals take between 4 and 24 minutes to travel between Earth and Mars depending on their relative positions. This delay means that real-time conversation is impossible, forcing mission planners to develop new protocols for coordination and emergency response that account for these communication lags. The researchers are developing AI systems that can operate independently for extended periods, making critical decisions without waiting for instructions from Earth while keeping human controllers informed of all significant developments. You don't need to stay awake for this part of our journey, dear listener. The story will still be here, flowing like a gentle stream through your dreams, carrying you deeper into the spacious vision of what 3I Atlas sees when they look toward Mars. Let yourself float now in this expanded perspective, where individual human lifespans become brief moments in the longer story of planetary transformation, where the boundaries between possible and impossible dissolve like morning mist before the rising sun. Picture cities that grow like coral reefs, bioarchitectural structures that breathe with the planet's restored atmosphere, their walls living membranes that filter air and recycle water with the efficiency of natural organisms. These aren't the harsh, metallic environments of early science fiction, but organic extensions of human habitation, structures that seem to grow from the Martian landscape itself rather than being imposed upon it. The buildings incorporate Martian materials, the iron-rich regolith that gives the planet its distinctive color, the subsurface ice that provides both structural material and life support, the thin atmospheric gases that are processed and concentrated to create breathable air. Each structure functions as a living system, with walls that photosynthesize using the planet's abundant carbon dioxide, converting it to oxygen while simultaneously providing structural strength. The buildings regulate their internal temperature by expanding and contracting like breathing organisms, opening vents during the warm Martian day to capture solar heat, and sealing tight during the frigid nights that can drop to temperatures colder than Antarctica. Bioluminescent panels provide gentle lighting during the long nights, powered by the metabolic processes of engineered organisms that thrive in the unique conditions of partially terraformed Mars. These architectural coral reefs cluster together into neighborhoods and districts, connected by flowing pathways that follow the natural contours of the Martian landscape rather than imposing geometric grids upon it. The settlement patterns emerge organically like the growth of natural ecosystems, with residential areas, workspaces, and community centers distributed according to principles of sustainability and psychological well-being rather than mere efficiency. Gardens and green spaces are integrated throughout, creating pockets of Earth-like vegetation that help maintain both atmospheric balance and human mental health. The agricultural domes spread across the planet like transparent flowers, each one a small ecosystem where Earth plants learn to thrive in Martian soil, enhanced with carefully managed nutrients and microorganisms. These aren't sterile hydroponic facilities, but complex biological communities that recreate the intricate relationships between plants, soil organisms, and atmospheric chemistry that make terrestrial agriculture possible. Inside these gentle structures, the sound of flowing water creates a constant soft symphony, while automated systems tend to gardens with the care of devoted monks who understand that growing food is a sacred act of creation and preservation. The agricultural systems operate on multiple levels, with root vegetables growing in the Martian regolith, leafy greens flourishing in hydroponic towers, and fruit trees creating living architecture that provides both food and oxygen production. Bees and other pollinators, carefully adapted to Martian conditions, move through these spaces like tiny ambassadors between Earth and Mars biology. The domes themselves are living structures, their transparent walls incorporating photosynthetic organisms that help regulate internal atmosphere while providing protection from the still harsh external environment. Each agricultural dome connects to others through underground networks that share resources, excess water from one facility irrigating crops in another, surplus oxygen from heavily planted areas supporting regions focused on grain production, waste heat from composting operations helping to maintain optimal temperatures for temperature-sensitive crops. This interconnected network creates resilience against failures in individual facilities while fostering the kind of resource sharing that will be essential for long-term human survival on Mars. Transportation networks flow across the planet like root systems or river networks, following the natural contours of the land rather than imposing straight lines upon it. These aren't harsh highways carved through pristine landscape, but gentle pathways that work with Martian geography, following ancient riverbeds, winding through crater walls, and bridging canyons with structures so integrated with their environment that they seem to grow from the rock itself. Magnetic levitation systems carry people and cargo in whisper-quiet vehicles that barely disturb the slowly thickening atmosphere, powered by the planet's own magnetic field as it is gradually restored through 3I Atlas intervention. The transportation system operates more like a nervous system than a traditional infrastructure network, with information and resources flowing along the same pathways that carry physical cargo and human passengers. Communication networks are built into the transportation corridors, creating redundant systems that ensure connectivity even if individual components fail. Emergency shelters and supply caches are distributed along major routes, providing safety nets for travelers crossing the still challenging Martian landscape. Underground transport systems burrow through the Martian regolith like the root networks of vast plants, protecting passengers from surface radiation while maintaining connection between distant settlements. These subterranean passages are marvels of engineering and biological design, their walls lined with organisms that process atmospheric gases and create breathable environments throughout the tunnel networks. Gentle lighting guides travelers through these passages, powered by geothermal taps and supplemented by the bioluminescence of adapted Earth organisms. Personal transportation takes the form of vehicles that are more like living companions than machines, biomechanical hybrids that adapt to their operators' needs and the changing conditions of the Martian environment. These vehicles can extend their operational range by processing atmospheric gases for fuel, repair minor damage using self-healing materials, and navigate autonomously when their human operators need rest. They form emotional bonds with their users, learning individual preferences and habits while providing not just transportation, but companionship during long journeys across the Martian landscape. As you drift deeper into sleep, imagine yourself walking through these future Martian landscapes, breathing freely under open skies that show the subtle blue-green tinge of a restored atmosphere. The air carries scents you've never experienced: the unique fragrance of Martian vegetation, the clean smell of processed atmosphere, the subtle mineral notes of red dust mixed with Earth-imported soil. Your feet touch ground that feels both familiar and alien: Martian regolith enhanced with organic matter and terraforming bacteria that help create soil capable of supporting terrestrial life. The horizon stretches away in all directions, marked by the distinctive rust-colored hills and ancient crater walls that give Mars its character, but now softened by the green of growing plants and the blue of restored water systems. Weather patterns create gentle rains that fall from clouds thick enough to support a hydrological cycle, each drop carrying the promise of continued transformation as it soaks into soil that becomes more life-supporting with each passing season. This is the patient dream that drives 3i Atlas forward through each careful day of preparation, each breakthrough in atmospheric processing, each successful test of bioarchitectural systems. The vision encompasses not just the survival of humans on Mars, but their flourishing, the creation of a truly sustainable civilization that enhances rather than diminishes both Earth and Mars as living systems. It's a dream that requires thinking in centuries rather than years, planning for generations yet unborn, and maintaining faith in humanity's ability to become worthy stewards of multiple worlds. The night sky above this future, Mars shows stars more clearly than Earthbound humans have ever seen them, the thin atmosphere providing crystal-clear views of the cosmos, while protective magnetic fields shield the surface from harmful radiation. Earth appears as a blue star in the Martian sky, a reminder of home and origin that connects Mars-born humans to their planetary heritage while allowing them to develop their own unique culture adapted to life under alien suns. We return now to the fundamental question, but approached from a different angle, like viewing a familiar mountain from a new path that reveals features invisible from previous perspectives. What does 3i Atlas want with Mars? The question itself begins to dissolve as you sink deeper into the rhythm of cosmic time, where wants and needs become less about acquisition and more about participation in the grand evolution of consciousness throughout the universe. They want to give it back its life, to help it remember what it once was and become something new, something that has never existed before in the 4 billion-year history of the solar system. The red planet once had oceans that covered much of its northern hemisphere, vast bodies of water that supported complex chemical cycles and possibly even primitive life forms. These ancient seas left their signatures in the planet's geology, mineral deposits that could only form in the presence of liquid water, sedimentary layers that speak of countless years when rivers carried silt from highlands to lowland basins, and chemical compositions in the atmosphere that suggest the presence of water vapor in quantities sufficient to support weather systems and seasonal changes. 3i Atlas sees not a dead world but a sleeping one, a planet that fell into a kind of geological coma when it lost its magnetic field and most of its atmosphere to solar wind stripping. Their mission is as much about resurrection as it is about colonization, a careful process of awakening dormant planetary systems that have been waiting for billions of years for the right conditions to function again. They approach Mars like healers approaching a patient in a deep coma, working with infinite patience to restore function to systems that have been dormant for eons, understanding that true healing cannot be rushed but must proceed at the pace that allows for sustainable recovery. The technologies they develop are not invasive surgeries, but gentle therapies designed to work with Mars' own natural healing processes rather than forcing artificial solutions upon an unwilling patient. Atmospheric processes don't simply pump gases into the Martian air, but recreate the chemical cycles that once maintained stable atmospheric conditions naturally. Magnetic field generators don't overpower the planet's weak magnetic signature, but amplify and organize it, helping Mars remember how to protect itself from solar radiation using its own electromagnetic resources. Water extraction systems work like acupuncture, finding the precise points where intervention can stimulate broader healing responses throughout the planetary system. Rather than strip mining ice deposits, these systems tap into subsurface water reservoirs in ways that actually help restore hydrological cycles, bringing water to the surface where it can participate in atmospheric processes while maintaining underground reserves that support geological stability. Consider how this mirrors our own sleep cycle, the nightly journey each of us takes into temporary unconsciousness, where our bodies and minds perform the essential work of healing, memory consolidation, and cellular repair. Each night we enter a kind of temporary death, our consciousness fading into dreams and darkness, only to be gently resurrected each morning by the returning sun. This daily resurrection requires no external intervention. It's a natural process built into the fundamental architecture of biological systems, a process that Mars once knew but lost when its planetary systems fell out of balance. Mars has been sleeping for geological ages, its water locked in ice, its atmosphere too thin to support liquid water, its magnetic field too weak to protect the slow processes of atmospheric and hydrological recovery. 3i Atlas works to provide the gentle alarm clock that will wake it to new life, not through violent intervention, but through careful support of the planet's own healing processes. Like skilled therapists helping a coma patient regain consciousness, they provide exactly the right stimulation at precisely the right moments to encourage natural recovery processes. The atmospheric processes function like respiratory therapists, helping Mars remember how to breathe more deeply by gradually thickening its atmosphere and adding the complex chemistry necessary for stable climate systems. The magnetic field generators work like pacemakers, providing the electromagnetic rhythm that helps organize planetary systems and protect them from external disruption. Water management systems function like circulation specialists, helping restore the flow of this vital substance through all the planetary systems that depend on it. Biological introduction represents the most delicate phase of planetary awakening, like the moment when a coma patient first opens their eyes and begins to respond to external stimuli. The organisms that 3i Atlas introduces to Mars are carefully chosen not just for their ability to survive in harsh conditions, but for their capacity to participate in planetary healing. These aren't invasive species that will overwhelm native systems, but therapeutic organisms that help restore chemical and atmospheric balance while remaining integrated with Mars' unique environmental characteristics. Feel this process working in your own body as you rest, your cells repairing and regenerating according to genetic programs that have been refined across billions of years of evolution. Your immune system patrols your bloodstream like the protective magnetic field that 3i Atlas seeks to restore around Mars. Your respiratory system processes atmospheric gases with the same careful balance that atmospheric processes will maintain on the red planet. Your circulatory system carries resources throughout your body with the same efficiency that restored hydrological cycles will bring life-supporting water to every region of Mars. You are part of the same cosmic process that will one day see Mars green again, the same evolutionary force that transforms simple chemicals into complex life, individual organisms into ecosystems, and single planets into interconnected biospheres that support consciousness and creativity. Your dreams tonight contribute to the collective vision that drives researchers and engineers to work toward goals they may never live to see completed. Understanding that the transformation of worlds requires commitment that spans generations and faith that extends across centuries, the process of terraforming Mars becomes a mirror for understanding our own evolution as a species, showing us how consciousness itself might be the universe's way of healing and transforming planetary systems. Through 3i Atlas, humanity becomes the universe's way of helping Mars remember how to dream again, how to support the complex chemistry of life, how to participate in the ongoing evolution of cosmic consciousness that may eventually span multiple star systems. As you sink deeper into the hypnotic rhythm of your own breathing, feel how each breath connects you to this vast process of planetary awakening. The oxygen you breathe was once locked in ancient rocks, liberated by billions of years of photosynthesis and geological processing. The carbon dioxide you exhale will be absorbed by plants and eventually contribute to the atmospheric cycles that maintain Earth's climate balance. You are part of a planetary respiratory system that 3i Atlas seeks to restore on Mars, helping our neighboring world remember how to breathe again.